Hey D&D fam, I'm Quick.
And I'm Lee, and you're listening to
Divas and Ducats. So what is a diva? I think divas get a bad rep, but to me, diva is all about the attitude.
As for ducats, it's your finances, your assets, Skrilla, guap, your coin. We're talking all things with the potential to affect your pockets.
And while we're attorneys by trade, we are divas by choice. Divas and Ducats is for edutainment purposes.
Y'all, we are not Series 511 or 703 professionals. This does not create a financial advisor or attorney-client relationship. The views expressed here are solely our opinions and the opinions of our guests.
It's just our opinions, y'all. Okay, divas, let's talk ducats.
All right. Welcome back to another episode. We're glad you're here.
Yes. Hey, D&D fam. Thank you for joining us again. And if you are following us on YouTube and watching us now, we ask that you go right now and like and subscribe.
Amen.
Click on that bell so you can be notified of future episodes when they come out. And let's get into our Diva Ducket topic of the day. What's on our Diva Docket?
Ooh, we are talking about some of the male-female dynamic, some of the perhaps mental games we play either with others or ourselves. And we, again, in previous episodes, Todd has been here with us. He's talked about imposter syndrome. He's talked about, he was last year before we were on YouTube, he did an episode about just man up and really the stigma with men in mental health, because sometimes they're not as comfortable dealing with some of those issues or admitting their issues. And so we like to bring in not only subject matter experts, but also sometimes it's good to have a little challenge or clarity from someone of the opposite sex, right? Especially if we're talking about some opposite sex or what can be some opposite sex issues within relationships. For sure. So welcome, Todd. Welcome back. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for coming back. We always enjoy our conversations with you. They are so stimulating.
I enjoy time with you.
Thank you.
And so for those who don't know you, tell them a little bit about what you do, maybe a little of your background.
Well, I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, certified sex therapist, sexuality educator, and for the most part, I work with couples on intimacy, relationship building, and helping people achieve their goals and become who they are on the inside that doesn't always manifest openly.
All right.
See, now y'all see why we got him here today, talking about these mental games between men and women.
Exactly.
Okay? Perfect guest.
Yes. So let's get into
it. So first, social stigmas, sometimes they can negatively impact relationships. I always feeling like, especially now with so much going on Instagram and all your social media affecting, the choices that you make. And our ability to not only relate in relationships, but to even understand the opposite sex as men and women, because, even conversations now aren't had the way they used to be had because of, messenger and chats and texts, and it's just been this huge disconnect, right?
Yeah.
And then we also, in getting to that, we have a lot of preconceived notions based upon what society is feeding us, based upon the older days. We hear a lot of times that you come into a relationship or in a conversation, it's like my mama used to, my grandma used to, my grandpa used to. So you have all these preconceived notions,
and it's a lot of that, like we say, either or situation. So it's like sometimes with women, you hear some women that say they want this alpha or the good guy. It's like there's really no in between, or maybe it's just so specific that it's unrealistic, right? We want that, sophisticated thug. We want that guy who, he can handle himself, but he knows to take us on a picnic and bring us flowers. And but then, with a nice guy, it might be like, he's nice, but he's too nice. So we do this thing back and forth, and to an extent, maybe from the male standpoint, it's like, okay, I don't necessarily want a woman that depends on me financially fully, but she needs to be nurturing. So then it's that back and forth of sometimes maybe corporate women run into, or women who kind of have their own run into that rub of, oh, she's not nurturing, or that assumption, right? That preconceived notion, like you said. So yeah.
And so getting into those like preconceived notions, how do you see that they kind of negatively impact relationships, or just even?
Well, a lot of times the preconceived notions are actually your thoughts and your experience.
Okay.
So even to start with an outside force to determine what's going on internally, you're already in a bad situation. You know, your father or woman's father may have portrayed manhood to look like one thing. So now she's canonizing that you have to be that.
Right.
However, she's not open to that. She's not a part of her father's generation. Number two is that she's not her mother.
Yeah.
So why would you pick a man that ain't yours? As opposed to understanding who you are, what resonates well with you, and then find someone that will complement who you are as an individual, as opposed to coming to a stereotype. Because we all know, as we grow, as we learn more, we want new and different things.
Right. Right.
So why not allow the organic process to meet someone, see how you resonate, feel the pull, feel the drive, and explore and learn and grow together? Because think about this. Femininity and masculinity are evolved before we find each other. But if I've canonized my set brand of manhood before I meet you, my brand of manhood doesn't consider you a factor. So therefore, will my brand of manhood resonate appropriately with you when it was never a factor, and vice versa? So we have to be open to know ourselves, but learn the other person, so that we can create an experience that allows both of us to grow and explore and be our greatest selves together, as opposed to one or the other trying to force one or the other to fit into a box that they were never designed to be in.
Right, right. And I think also, like when you're talking about people forcing someone to be in a box, like we give ourselves grace to change, right, and to develop and to mature into all these beautiful things, but we want a partner to come in, like you said, in this perfect box,
ready-made,
in exactly the way we want them in that moment, even though we know we're going to change in 5 or 6 years, so it's
but we work with the construct that they won't.
Yes, now that's good. Yes, we absolutely do, and I think that is so dangerous, because I've been guilty of this. I was like, that hit. Yeah.
I say all day, I have to remind people, life is dynamic, not static.
Yeah.
Life is consistently moving and changing. So even if you think you know somebody on Tuesday, then depending on what they've been impacted with by Wednesday, you're dealing with a different person.
Yeah.
So why not adapt to where you are being present, as opposed to a construct that isn't relevant?
Yeah, that's good.
That's why they pay him to do what he does.
Right?
So where does, I hear it all the time from men and women. I'm not really a fan of the whole alpha, right? Because I think some of what can come along with that, or some of the ways maybe not can come along with it, but sometimes the way people show up in claiming to be that can be problematic. That's the reason I'm not a fan of the word. But a lot of women and men, some women say they're an alpha female, they want an alpha man, blah, blah, blah. So where does some of that stem from? That wanting the, I guess the protection, the protect and prefer, like where does that stem from? Is that something we're taught? Is it a societal thing? Like,
Well, for it comes from a lot of different places. Societally, in the messages that are sent. If you grew up in a house where men were dominating, and you're watching your mother being dominated, you don't want to be that person. I have a client I just worked with yesterday, and she said her husband, when she becomes overly aggressive with her husband. Now she's probably 5'1", he's 6'9".
Okay.
So, and he says, "Please, honey, let's not do this right now. Let's just wait, because it's not gonna go right." And then she pushes and pushes. Then he blows up. It's, "Oh, you're the big angry man now." And he's like, "No," but she said to me, because when he says for me not to do something, how dare a man tell me? My father never did that to my mother, and therefore he's trying to dominate and control me.
Okay.
And he said, no. He says, I see you as my partner, and I'm trying not to blow up, and I'm asking you to help me save us. Because she's defined it to be one thing based on a previous mindset and never got with him to understand what his motive and intent is.
Yeah.
And it's probably also a false narrative because she don't know what her daddy did to her mom behind closed doors.
It's true.
Exactly. However, but again, now, obviously, you look at society, you listen to songs, and now we're promoting women and their successes and their accolades, rightfully so.
Yeah.
But they're doing that because we come from a society that suppressed women. Remember, even sexually, women were taught to pleasure, not be pleasured.
Right.
See how that resonates with both of you? Y'all said it in sync.
Yeah, you are right.
Exactly. So with those types of suppression and the inconsistency that goes on inside of you, why do I have to be subject to this? Will facilitate creating that more alpha, more dominant position because I don't want to be oppressed.
Okay.
And then, and to what you were saying, like with the preconceived notions of alpha, is always a negative thing, right? It's not just someone who's assertive, which can be good in your career and all those things.
Yeah.
Usually, it's also come with that someone that's rude. Like, you know, they instantly connect like an alpha person that's rude, or
it's a little more primitive, I guess, in terms of how it. At least stereotypically manifest. It's not like you said, just assertive or just like an advocate for themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But there are healthy ways of doing that and unhealthy ways. To your point, Lee, you said you didn't even like terms like that. Because think about this, because with a term, societally, we put a persona with the term. So that means we may be taking on characteristics and behaviors that are not organic to us as individuals.
Right.
So even our posture and our position throws it off when we're trying to connect to people. Because if you're going to be the alpha man or the alpha female, there's a posture, there's a presence, there's an energy that you have to protect. So now we create these representatives or this imposter self that we can't really sustain.
Yeah. Right. That's true. That's true.
But so it's similar to mental health. We don't like saying, sir, we're diagnosing you with this. Why? Because people tend to take on the persona of a depressed person, as opposed to saying, so you share a symptomology of, and these are things we need to be concerned about, here's some solutions, as opposed to, you have this. Then all of a sudden they go, oh, I have depression.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, now you take on the persona, and that's not how it has to play out. So, this is why I always challenge people, no matter how you are, let it be organic to who you are. Let it resonate well with you. Why don't you understand who you are as a person? And as opposed to categorizing yourself, why don't you be an individual? That exemplifies assertiveness in some situations. When it's appropriate, you just give whatever energy, whatever presence that needs to show up, but it's still organic to who you are.
Right. Because every situation does not require for you to be assertive.
Or overly assertive.
Right. And I think another preconceived notion is the good guy, good guys finish last, and, the good girls, like, I don't know, that there's automatically submissive and they're the nurturers, and, but they can't. I don't know. When I think about a nurturer, right, the vision that comes to mind, because we talk about, assigning personas to these terms, like the person that's, nurturing or can cook, I just think about the grandmas in the kitchen, the arms, like it's
with
not right. It's not the girl that's, got the nice
reaching down in
right, and pulling out stuff for the kids while she's staring at the pot, like she can do everything, right? But it's not the one that, that's working out, got it together in her career, that's not who we think of as the nurturer, and similarly for the good guy, like he's not the alpha male, he's just like passive, and I think a lot of times I don't even know if this is still said, but I know there were songs like saying, I want a thug, or those
soldier.
I want a soldier.
Destiny's Child,
right. So like, talk about some of like those preconceived notions of where they really like lead you to.
Well, my thing is this: we can go after a persona, or we can go with what resonates with us. Go after the persona, the roughneck, from MC Light, the soldier from Destiny's Child, and okay, that's nice, but you're gonna end up with a dude with no benefits and a yeast infection. Okay, or I could actually organically find somebody that resonates with me because, hey, I do have to have a roof over my head. I want a decent FICO score because I'm gonna buy some stuff. Might want to put some kids through college. So as opposed to looking for a persona, let me understand who I am, the quality of life I want to live, and resonate.
Right.
Because that good guy, hey, may not have the swag of a roughneck, but the FICO score gonna be nice, and he trainable and teachable.
Not trainable and teachable.
That is so true. Really
That sound like a dog.
No, but think about it. Wait a minute. I'm a firm believer. We have to teach people how to love
Yes.
us. Nobody organically knows how to take care of you.
Yeah.
So you spent your whole life with you. I just meet you.
Yeah.
So I'm supposed to know everything about you?
Right.
No, that's just setting somebody up to fail and yourself to be disappointed. Remember, we're taught to be excellent students. We're taught to be excellent professionals. Nobody teaches you how to be an intimate partner.
Right.
You got pieces of parts. I got pieces of parts. Let's throw them together, hope for the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's about really understanding who you are and finding a compliment as opposed to a category.
Yeah.
That's good.
Okay.
It is about finding a compliment instead of a category. That is good. Yeah. I mean, I think like what he was saying, yes, because like when people, like what he was saying about somebody being trainable and teachable, like to find a partner that is receptive to that, you know, it's not every day that you can tell a partner, whether it's male or female, that didn't feel good in bed, or I didn't like the way you did this, and they not take it as some personal affront to all of their experiences, and they're like,
because of the way you said
I think it's the way,
judgmental.
I think sometimes, but it's an uncomfortable conversation regardless.
Well, right, it is an uncomfortable conversation, but it's the approach.
Yeah.
Why talk about what you did wrong as opposed to what I want more of?
right,
It's the presentation. So, hey, you know what? First of all, you should have these conversations before you get naked.
Probably.
Yeah,
Save some time.
that would benefit.
That would help.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would benefit tremendous. But then it's talking about what you want more of, because the more you talk about what you want, the more you tend to get what you want, and the lesser of what you don't want.
law of attraction. It's so true.
So share what it is you want. Hey, some people don't like to be choked and their wrist held. Okay, so hey, as opposed to that, I like to be caressed on my thighs. So you don't talk about wrist and neck. Okay, now you can talk about wrist and neck, but what you highlight, you talk about that lesser than what you want.
It's that good old start with the positive. Start with the positive. I'm just because I mean, and in any conversation, even if you're outside the bedroom, I think that's what happens. A person almost feels attacked because sometimes we can't. I ain't like that. Of course, somebody's gonna be like, you know what, you know, because I mean, people don't like to say it necessarily. Probably hurt their feelings. Yeah, you know.
But it's real conversation. But it's like, again, you have to take into account people are emotional. Men and women are emotional. You know, I always share with women. Men want to be wanted and desired just as much as women. We just don't tend to say it. And I use the example: a man will accept flowers, and if you smack him on the behind, he won't say stop. I.e., you make me feel wanted and desired. That's why I accept it.
Now, y'all be careful, D&D family, about smacking it.
Listen,
just
I don't know how it's gonna go. But I kind of do want to speak to that because, and I think we kind of spoke a little offline about it. I think sometimes, unfortunately, men with intimacy don't feel safe. And so I wanted to, as much as you can, talk to, because everyone's different. I'm not going to say this is across the board, but you know, I've had male friends that I've spoken to, and they've pretty much said they feel that the only person they can be nice to is their daughter, because they feel like if they show, even though, you know, as women we say, oh, we want a man who can be honest about his feelings and open and expressive about his emotions, but again, the male friends that I've talked to, some of them have said, like, no, you can't be but so emotional. You can't have but so many bad days, or cry really in front of your woman, but so much before it's like they lose respect for you, or they like, oh, he always crying. So speak to some of that if you can about that. I guess like emotional intimacy from men, or maybe even them not feeling safe, because we always talk about it as women what we don't get, but yeah.
No, I agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying. Interesting point. I mentioned this earlier today. I have a couple who's been married 25 years or so, and intimacy has been an issue throughout the relationship. But the wife said to the husband, I feel awkward sexually. She just got comfortable enough to just say it. And he looked at her and said, I do too. She looked at him in shock. Oh. Because she said, you're a man, you're supposed to know everything. He said, ain't nobody ever taught me nothing. I just do what I get. I'm guessing what I'm doing. Hey. Now, the beauty in that was, she said it made her feel so connected to her husband that she loved him more. With him being willing to be vulnerable. However, men do not feel they can be vulnerable, because I have a number of clients, females, that have called their husbands homosexual because they connected to their feelings. They may have cried once or twice. Dang. Because again, the stereotypical man, society paints a picture. You're supposed to look like this, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to function like this. So if you work outside of that construct, something's wrong with you. Remember, the school system teaches based on everybody being in the middle of the bell curve. We do know there's people to the left and to the right of the bell curve, but we pretend that everybody's in the middle. We do that with gender, we do that with many things throughout life.
Yeah. And so what is something that in those situations where like maybe he doesn't feel like he can be fully, I guess, expressive, like what are some things on both sides the woman can do and the man can do to kind of foster that availability or that emotional availability?
Well, what I share with them is to, first and foremost, with true intimacy, you need safety, trust, and vulnerability. Okay. So in those things, it's really begin to create situations with one another, have real conversation. Everybody, you can say my perspective anyway, you can say anything to anybody, but you have to pick timing. Timing's important. So the point is, everybody has a time that they can be spoken to. Whether it's a Sunday walk, whether it's watching a movie and you see something relevant on a movie that all of a sudden replicates your relationship after lovemaking, whatever the case may be. But be able to create time for us just to connect as people and talk about life stuff, how you've been impacted. Let me find out what's important to you today, what's significant, how have you been impacted by life, what is concerning. Begin to just know a person as a person. Begin to dig. I'm having a number of clients, and now I'm saying, we only have surface conversation. Yeah. Well, if I'm only having surface conversation, means I don't feel I can truly be vulnerable with you. And I hear a lot of times men don't want to disclose to the wife, he said, because it's going to come back to bite me. Because as soon as she gets upset, I'm going to hear all of my stuff about my mama and them, what I ain't been doing, penis not being big enough, whatever. Okay. It's like there is no rule. Oh. So therefore, why would I open myself up for that? So I'll love you, but I have to keep a secret part because in some ways I can't trust you.
That's hard.
Yeah. You are not my safe place.
Ooh. Yeah. And so what I'm hearing is from the woman's side, that maybe requires some of us to do work around how we view manhood and why that is, right? You know what I mean? Like where does that come from that a man, your man, can't cry or can't be in his feelings? Because I mean, we get in our feelings all the time, right? So even that, like it sounds like some unpacking.
At some point in life, we're going to have to allow each of us to be human. Men don't want women to cry because we don't know what to do with her emotion. Dude, why do you have to do something? Just let her know you're available. however you need me, and just wait for instruction. Because sometimes fixing a situation is sitting there minding your business. But wait for the signal, follow the signal. You don't have to be a rocket scientist. Hey, women, men are penetrable. Every Superman has kryptonite.
Right.
Sorry to say it, but it's true.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's real. And at some point, we're going to have to deal in reality as opposed to ideal. Because until we get rid of the focusing on the ideal, we're setting ourselves up to be unhappy, to be disappointed.
Yeah. And another, it just brings home the point of, and I just keep thinking of like all the male friends that I've talked to, like not necessarily all of this that we're getting into, but just conversations. And it kind of hit me when he was saying like the ideal, because another one of my friends said that it feels for them like women want Superman, but Superman was also Clark Kent, right? And so he was like, men, what he said is men are usually one or the other. That was a double life. He was never the same. He was never both of them at the same time. He was either Clark or he was Superman. And so he was saying, as a man, it gets really confusing because it's like each relationship, somebody wants something different, and then some people want both, and that wasn't a thing. So it's so interesting, and like it's just really resonating to hear that whole thing with the ideal, right? Because again, Superman, he was two people, but he was never. It wasn't a Venn diagram. It never intersected, right?
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, and I mean to that point, I think women are in our relationships. We kind of feel like I wish you would ask me to be, like a man can never come to me and say,
I need to be something else.
Right, I need right. But we have the freedom to say that to men all the time.
No.
Yeah.
What was it? I had a client. He had basically how he phrased it is, my wife talks like a sailor. She was just as tall, just as big, just as ferocious as a husband. And it was like, dude, she talks to me any old kind of way. I'm trying to, just trying to pacify it. Can't win.
Yeah.
He can't win.
Yeah.
So at some point, we're going to have to be human enough to meet people where they are and not the ideal. Let me meet the person. Hey, because when you do this, you really want people just to be a representative. You never want them to be their true self. Therefore, in the relationship, when I can't give you my real self, there's always a void in me.
Yeah.
And if there's an unmet need in me, that makes me susceptible to all kinds of foolishness. Because remember, you can only be hungry so long.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're not going to allow me to take my cape off and lay my head in your lap, and you stroke my head and let me know it's going to be okay, we're going to have a problem, because I'm going to lay my head down somewhere. Now, the point is, lay my head down, stroke me. Hey, I'm not going to be disappointed when you say, okay, this is enough. Get your tail up. Go and fight the lions and tigers in bed. I could. Yeah, but guess what? I can, because now I got my rest on. You were my safe place. You were my comforter. You were my nurturer. Now let me go fight the lions and tigers and bears. I'll come back home with the spoils and we both celebrate.
Okay. Let him lay your head, girl. Let him lay your head.
I'm going to go home. Just rub your head now.
Don't just randomly do that, because you will.
Okay, I will.
No, it's right here.
Oh, it's the
back.
Okay.
Right there at the back, just right behind the crown.
Okay.
Not like the dog, though. Don't do it rough.
Don't pat.
No,
okay.
Not a pat.
I think I'm gonna try this out. I'm gonna call you, Todd, if it don't work now.
It's gonna work. It's gonna work. Use your fingernails to it. Do it soft. Let your nails rub.
It's like a tingly grip.
I got it. I think I'm equipped.
So let's get into some of these, the dichotomy, or the things the contradictions, basically.
Which is interesting, as he just mentioned. I'm gonna go lay my head somewhere else.
It was real. If you ain't rubbing it, somebody will.
Hey, just tell me where you want it. He might surprise you.
So, getting into that, women are socialized to be monogamous, right? We're told from little girls, grow up and find your prince. Not princes, your prince, right? From little girls, we're socialized to be monogamous, and little boys don't.
Not necessarily.
You know, don't settle down too quick. You can have friends.
Yeah, sow your oats.
Right.
Get out there.
And so, you know, and generally, like I said, generally men are taught the opposite. And so the notion that men often look at monogamy as confinement, you know, they play the handcuffs, the chains,
the ball and chain.
The ball and chain when it comes to monogamy. Like, it's just like you're just giving up so much to.
Right.
I don't know. How do you is that true? Like, is that something that we are telling ourselves?
Yeah.
Do men really like to be monogamous, or is that like it's a true dichotomy?
That's kind of like a
Well, I believe the way that we're reared is a true dichotomy, in that good girls don't, boys do. Well, if girls don't and the boys can, who the boys supposed to do it with?
Thank you. That's always my question. Always.
Right. So there is a dichotomy. Now, how we play it out varies. Because what I find now, even though that's the stereotype, I don't know if many people comply to it nowadays.
Yeah.
On both ends.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Because women are much more aggressive now and assertive in what they want in their sensuality and sexuality. And I think I was watching Insecure. I don't know. Can you say the N word on your YouTube channel?
I don't know.
I'm just quoting what they said on TV.
Okay, let's just say N-word is implied.
Okay, I'll just say N-word. I'll say N-word. Okay. She said she had the N-word on rotation.
Okay.
Issa, this year.
Issa, right.
But and then I'm watching it in a room full of people, and the women like, ah! Oh, okay, but if I were to say that,
oh, she was doing her whole face.
Said that,
what she called a whole face.
Right, exactly. If a guy said the same thing, they would all jump on it.
Martyr.
Right. So so therefore, societally, there are shifts. Women are becoming more comfortable with their sensuality and sexuality. I have more couples, heterosexual couples, that are doing more alternative, explorative things. So I know the stereotypes, I hear them, but societally, there are shifts taking place.
Yeah.
Yes, there are some things that women should be still monogamous and so forth, and some women I find are very comfortable with that dynamic. Some more men seem to wrestle with, oh my goodness, it's the last woman I'm gonna sleep with the rest of my life. But what I always challenge people with, I said, in long-term relationships, you just really have to focus on maintaining exploration and wonder. That's why the beginning of a relationship is so exciting. It's because we don't know each other, so we're learning, we're growing, it's exciting and so forth. But in the midst of that, in order to have emotional security, we have to begin to canonize people or box them in. I believe this person will do this. I believe this person won't do this. Now I can feel safe. We can be in relationship. But now I've boxed you in, and now you become a roommate. Now we're brother and sister.
Right.
Well, so therefore we have to it's really about maintaining exploration and wonder. And as we're evolving, we're communicating our shifts and our changes with each other so we can continue to grow, share, and explore together to counter that. It's more so an unnecessary fear. If you have two people that are willing to grow, two people that are willing to share, monogamy is not necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
Yeah.
But if we're going to be stagnant and complacent and we're not going to invest in ourselves and each other, then it becomes a rut. It becomes less pleasing.
Right.
One of the things I've been saying to couples a lot lately is we need to redefine work. We go to a 9 to 5, we come home, I'm off work. Well, actually work is like energy. It's neither created nor destroyed, it just changes form. Because you did the 9 to 5, that's work. But remember, a relationship is love and business. You generate money, running money through that house, you got processes, you got systems, and it's more complex because it's love and business. So if I'm going to work at business, when I come home, I also have to invest and work such that there is the return that I'm looking for.
Come on, somebody.
Yeah.
That's good.
So there's that whole bit, I thought I'm off work. No, I'm off work, I'm going to my second job, but my second job has a greater return,
Right.
has a greater return than the first one.
Right.
Because my second can be an everlasting and creating generational moves that cannot be stopped. This one can be temporary.
Right. Right. That's good.
That's true.
Do you see the dichotomy change or the shift change based upon like age and income? I mean, I know it's like generational change, obviously, but
Correct.
is there, that shift based upon income, like higher salaries, like they seem to care less about?
Well, wait a minute. Think about this. I'm going to talk to you. When you were on the yard and you were dating, you ain't got nothing to lose. It's all good. So you didn't really care. You didn't check what if he was graduating. You didn't check his GPA. You ain't do none of that.
Right.
Now you're a woman that got stuff to lose. You check that. You check everything about that. You went online, see if there's criminal background. You want to see what your money look like. Because I got stuff to lose.
Right.
As you begin to grow, expand, and take on different roles and responsibilities, who you would put in your life changes. Because I'm not going to let somebody come in and sabotage what I built.
Right.
Yeah. That's
So
right.
I have, it was interesting. Very affluential client I have. He found a wonderful wife. She made about $200,000 a year.
Okay.
He makes $9 million.
Oh, okay. So she broke the
Okay,
him.
now, no, wait a minute, hold on. However, when he assessed her, he said, "How can she compliment me?" And she saw she had a business acumen. So he facilitated setting her up in business, and she makes $3 million.
Okay.
Yes,
Look.
girls.
Upgrade
He
her.
found his compliment.
He found his compliment. Right.
And now they're having a shared experience because he found someone on a similar trajectory. They do different things, but they saw how they could collaborate on multiple layers. They don't just look like the cute couple, but now because he's intentional, hey, there's a quality of life I want to live. There's a rhythm that I want to do. I want to be able to have kids, go to soccer games, do all of those things. Now, who is the best fit for that? If she wanted to run the street, he wanted to run the street, whatever the case may be, that's not congruent with what you organically desire and feel you need to be successful. So as that's shifting and changing through life, that partner shifts and changes.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the importance of when you do connect to somebody, are they open to grow and change as life is growing and changing?
Yeah.
I have quite a few clients now married over 16 years wanting divorces because one is consistently growing, changing, and the other one still only eats fried chicken.
Okay.
No, they don't go to Mexican restaurants, Chinese restaurants, Italian restaurants. No, they want fried chicken.
Just Bojangles and KFC. That's it. Okay.
Exactly.
That's it.
Well, I mean, and transitioning to that, talking about like the divorce and people not willing to change, and then even that example you gave your client that made $9 million, and it really resonated with me looking at a compliment and not a category. It also often gets into what we think we should do, like people telling us, "Oh, you should be with this guy because of this," or I'm sure he had people in his ear telling him, "You should marry a millionaire. You have all of this." It makes me think about Candy Burris and Todd, and but the opposite, because it was a man and female. In the
she
opposite,
was a higher earner.
Yeah. But there was so many people, in her ear telling her she should not marry Todd because of how much income she made, but again, business acumen, and now he out there running businesses with her.
Exactly.
So talk a little bit about that should factor and being able to look at your internal self and what feels good to you, and being able to kind of block out those voices of what should happen.
Yeah. I always ask, why are outside voices more important than yours? What makes them right when, let's be honest, we don't tell our closest friends everything.
True.
No.
So therefore, even when they're giving you information, they're giving it to you from a limited data point. So why make choices and decisions from people that are giving you information based on limited data? I have several clients. I have one couple right now who recognize they've been married 11 years, but they only got married because that's what you're supposed to do after college. and they were looking for emotional security with the transition of college, going into corporate America, and all of these things. They didn't feel safe and secure. So let us get married, and we can be each other's security. Now, 11 years later, they said we're not. Love was never a factor in us being married.
Familiarity.
Or a woman that recently got divorced. She was saying, I was living my best life as a single woman. My friend said I had been single too long and that I was going to dry up and that I'm just too picky. She finds a husband who wasn't the best of person. He was not happy to the point where he chose strippers over her.
Okay.
But the point is she should have never been married to the person, and because her own spirit, he wasn't her type. Her own spirit said this is not going to work, but the noise of the world of her friends said do it. She did it. 4 years later, she's unhappy, divorced, and now rebuilding.
Yeah.
At some point, we're going to have to believe us. At some point, we're going to have to be more concerned about what I call be selfish. There are things we need to be successful. You want me to be selfish. Why? Because when I'm selfish enough to feed myself the things that I need, it facilitates me having the strength to be my greatest self so I can do whatever it is you need me to do.
Yeah.
But until I can really identify what my core needs are, I have the potential to bleed out because they won't be fed.
Yeah. That's
and
right.
then I just give you a pale offer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I heard someone else was saying it like, I can't be drowning and save you too. Like I got to get me good first, right? And that really what resonated with me was when, Todd was saying like you have to teach people what you need, or first of all you got to know what you need, but you also have to teach people about how to love you, etc. And I know for me, like I really like the little quizzes and things to learn more about yourself, whether it's personality, love language, or whatever. And Quick has separate love languages for friends and booze apparently. But
isn't this the first pause? Is that not normal? Like I have love languages in a relationship versus friendships, and they're completely different. Like I don't need quality time necessarily from.
She said her love language was like 4 of the 5, like
depending on who the person is.
Okay.
Well, Dr. Chapman might say different, but okay.
So my point though is like I think a lot of times we will especially show up in our language and and get upset when another person does the same thing, right? Because I think if I'm showing up in my language, if I'm acts of servicing you to death, but you're words of affirmation, but I get upset when you're giving me all these words and not doing the things.
Right.
And it's like, you know what I mean? Like you have to teach each other or do that back and forth of like, hey, so I really like that you're telling me these things, but
this is what I need.
Right.
So
because people fail to recognize I think the love languages is a great book, great activity. However, I always have to share with people, it's less about you knowing your love language and more about knowing your partners and your partners knowing yours. Why is that important? Because we have a tendency to love people the way we want to be loved.
Right.
However, it's a different person. They're not on that frequency.
Right.
So therefore, I want to know what your love language is so I can direct my efforts in a way that you can see it. So you may be acts of service. The other person might be words of affirmation. So now that I know your acts of service, I will be attentive and be able to take care of those needs. But then that means that in turn, you're going to say, I see you, I appreciate you, boy. You're doing all right with me, and say those words of affirmation that will continue to motivate me to make sure your acts of services are taken care of.
Right. It's so important. It's such a, not tit for tat, but it's such a, constant little flow of back and forth.
It's a dance. When you move, I move. Just like that.
Hey.
So did we get into, because that's a thing for you. Did we get into this protect, provision, gold digger thing? Is that
No,
right?
we have not hit
I'm gonna
that.
just let you go on and speak on it.
Well, so I think when I think about it, because thinking about I need a soldier and I need an out. Like I think what people really are saying, female wise, is that I want to feel protected, right? I want not provision and whatever provision it looks like for you. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be I want him to ball out and speak. Like it could be whatever that is for you. For me, it's not necessarily I need him to come in and buy my house. I have my own house. What I need, like you were saying, Todd, is I've built all this. I need someone that's not going to take away at all from that, but add to it, however that addition is going to be, right? So for me, that's provision.
Okay.
But when I think about the alpha male, that's what I feel like. I think protection. I want to feel protected by you. And it's funny because like me and my fiance have had this conversation and he's like, but a lot of women that are like, I want protection, like they're the people that go out and be rowdy and be like, oh, you didn't fight him for me? Like he's like I'm too old for that. Like I'm not fighting in the streets for you, like. So if you don't feel protected by me because I ain't go off on no dude in the bar that you started with, I'm sorry, So, like, kind of talk to, like, the underlying needs for some of the things that, even with men, I don't know what men necessarily say, but I think sometimes what they really want is someone that's supportive, that they can feel that they can let down that cape for, and that's nurturing. And I don't know what terms they use.
Yeah, I feel like as women, you constantly hear protect and provide.
Yeah, but I don't know what men say.
But I don't know men's little buzzword.
Yeah, but I'm challenged even with the COVID protect and provide because they're mentally, physically, emotional, and spiritual. So if I'm going to be a provider, that means you have to be allowing to see me in all the layers of life, not just as a roughneck. And then it's a challenge for me even hearing, and I know it happens, and I say this to women all the time, stop testing a man. Because every time you test a man, he knows he's being tested and he'll fail on purpose. Because he does not appreciate being tested.
Right.
Tempt not the Lord thy God.
Wow.
However, by doing it, and you're telling something about yourself, I don't know if I want to be in this situation because if this is your modus of operandi, this is going to show up too often and be a deal with.
Right.
Yeah.
Another thing in regards to the gold digger, what she's looking for, it's fine that a woman looks for what she's looking for, but what do you bring to the table? See, too often time, what are you going to do for me? What are you going to do for me? No. What are we going to do for each other? So as opposed to pulling and what you're going to do for me, what is it that you offer that's going to motivate me to do anything?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Because if I'm in a relationship where I'm just pouring out, and I don't feel some level of equal reciprocity, and it can come from any layer, it can come differently, but at some point I'm getting a return, my motivation is what?
Right.
Yeah.
And it has to be more than body.
Okay.
Because no matter how prolific that is, it comes to an end. We got to have something else.
Right.
Yeah.
And ladies, it's not a Valentine's gift. Some of the fellas wanted me to say that. But that drives me to it made me think of something that I will admit that at times I've had to unpack is the need thing. I think at a certain point I didn't necessarily say it the right way in terms of I don't need you. And I think that not just men necessarily, but I do get this sense that men want to be needed in some ways. Not necessarily you as a dependent, but feel like you need them in some way. And I think sometimes when you have your independent, it could be a little rub.
Well, if I have no role or no purpose, why am I here?
Okay.
Everybody men and women want to know they're wanted and desired.
Right.
But if you can do everything by yourself, why am I here? You're not giving me a role. You're not giving me a purpose. You're not giving me a function. I feel like dead weight. My motivation is what? Nobody's dead weight. Hey, I'm valuable. I have an offering. I want to be utilized. I want to be a factor in your life.
Yeah.
And if you're so independent that I was talking to a couple earlier this week, and I know the female client extremely well, and what she does, don't worry about it, I got it. And the guy's like, Todd, no, she wants to get up under the car and change the oil.
Oh.
I mean,
Because, wait a minute, she's been a single parent of 2 kids for an extended period of time. Ain't nothing she can't do.
Mm-hmm.
However, he's like, I'm standing here, he said looking less than masculine.
We know the word he said. We know what he said.
Yeah. It's a BN word. But anyway. But, the point is, if I'm in your life and you're positioned where I have no function and no role, I'm getting no affirmation, what's the point? Typically, think about this. Men, all genders, are challenged every day.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I come home and I got to be challenged at home too, my motivation is what to come home now?
Okay.
Now, let's get into this word challenged.
Oh, Lord.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean? What does that mean? Because I think oftentimes it's interpreted as don't question me.
No.
What is this challenge thing about?
When I say challenge, do not dismiss, demean, or devalue.
Okay.
No, we can be talked, we can be challenged, we can do all that's just conversation. That's supposed to happen in life.
Mm-hmm.
Even in relationships, you should have conflict periodically because conflict causes you to grow and have final relationships on the longer term.
Right.
But at any point that I'm talking to you that displays a mind, methodology, or presence that you find devaluing or not respectful, it's just not a good thing.
Yeah.
Y'all have a way of cutting the eyes at people. You go,
Oh.
And you say, okay, that strikes fear. I'm gonna be honest. I always tell men secrets. I don't care. So, for example, men are not afraid of anything. Anything. Whether it's true or not, we can kill every man, and whether it's true or not, we can knock down any wall.
Absolutely.
It's just how we wired.
Right.
However, the ones that we do have a fear, that's a woman. It's a woman. We do not want to disappoint you. Mm-hmm. We come home to see a smile. I got men in my office, and I say it for what, and they say they agree with me. We fight lions and tigers and bears to come home for a smile. Mm-hmm. Because if not, we say, "Oh God, what did I do? Oh, now you living on eggshells." Mm-hmm. And because we all know when y'all get heated, there's not much we can do. All we can do is sit down. We might yell, we might scream, we can fuss, but a man can't outfit a woman. Come on, let's be real.
Yeah.
Let's just be real. To some degree, we're a victim, and that being that vulnerable is not good. So we do love you, we value you, and we want those words of affirmation. Because the contrary is just more challenging than we can handle.
Okay.
I'll accept it.
I mean, I wouldn't say victim per se, but I do accept.
Strong.
Yeah, I do. I receive it. So the thing.
Well, wait a minute. I remember when I was on the first time with you guys. I was talking to Lee, and you came on this rattle about asking me questions. I said, "Hey, hold on. See, I said that's what I'm talking about right there."
The man up episode.
And it was instinctive. Here it is. We being professionals, and you was like, I said, "Ooh."
Wait a minute. This is the exact example.
Hold up.
It was overwhelming. I see that was an overwhelming approach. I received it. So my last, and I don't know if Quick has anything, but what it brought about when you were saying, like, we were talking about the provision, and we're talking about just all these opposing views and things that we've been taught that they don't make sense, right? That's why we wanted to unpack it today. One of the things I've talked about in therapy, and just even my friends, when talking about relationships, is this concept of the fact that a lot of times, at least and I don't know how other communities operate because they might have different social norms, but a lot of times the community that I know, we now are in a situation where a lot of women don't necessarily, not saying we don't need a man, I'm saying we don't need a man in a traditional setting, in terms of we don't necessarily need a man financially. We don't necessarily need him to fight the lion, because some of us got our own 9mm and we'll do what we got to do. So it's a position where now, modernly, some men are trying to figure out, well, what is my role? And then as women, we're asking them to be something that they're not used to being, and having to figure out, for those who, because I'm not saying to settle for somebody who's just not even willing to try to evolve a little bit, but are we going to be patient as they try to kind of figure that out? Because I know in talking to sometimes guys, they say, like, I mean, it's just not natural. Not saying they won't, but it just, certain things don't come naturally to them. So I just want to talk to a man about,
No, but to your point is, we're all going through in society as a whole on many levels, going through transformation. And to your point, being patient is important. And being an effective communicator. So as opposed to looking at the other person, how are you preparing for the shifts and the changes that you're going through, the shifts and changes and roles and people you want in your life? And how are you able to communicate that in a way that's receivable by the other person? So as opposed to pointing fingers, why don't you look at you first before looking at the other person? So point is, at some point we all have to choose to grow up and recognize we're going in different directions, different things, and really say, what are the needs? Where do I need to grow to be and do all the things I want to do at this phase of my life? I have more off. This is just who I am. No, that's how you were pre-programmed, who you were based on previous experience.
Right, absolutely.
But how about looking at where you're at and where you're going at the new data points to adjust so you can actually accomplish what it is you want to accomplish. So it is patience, but at some point we have to begin to stop looking outwardly and look inwardly and look for our own areas of growth, implement them, and we'll find our environment shifting to more complement us than to the contrary. Well,
that seems to be the theme.
Right. I'd love that compliment.
No, as a society, we don't want to be held accountable for anything.
Right.
We want everybody else. We want to be everybody else's fault. I want you to do this. I want you to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. If I'm doing all the work, what's the value in you?
Okay. Well. Questions to consider.
Look, that was a wrap and over, right? Man, if I'm doing all the work, what is the value in you?
Listen, it's a lot of little nuggets.
It is. That compliment category, that's my thing. I'm about to say that at least 10 times tonight. Look.
Really?
Okay.
But you see how you did that?
Okay, bring it down some.
With the smile.
I'm gonna massage. I found my compliment, not my category.
I can't. Did you have anything else?
I did. This was wonderful. I mean, I just, I really think the most important part that came out of it for me is just first finding what is true to you, right?
Yeah.
Getting out of the
very much so
societal norm, and that takes work.
Yeah.
It really does take work to even realize if you're applying societal norms, or if that's what really, if that's really what is true to you, if that's really what makes you happy,
that's what compliments you, or that what works in your life,
right? Or feeling like, are you in this category or trying to choose this category because of something else, outside voices, or if this is really what you desire. So, in playing these mental games, I think a lot of it is just doing a disservice to yourself if you're not like you said, internalize it and finding what's true to you.
Right. So. Because if you don't, you're left out.
Yeah.
If you don't if you don't present the true you is never effective.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it comes 15 years later in a divorce.
So. Well.
Exactly.
Amen. All right. Well, Todd, tell the people where they can find you if they haven't already.
Well, you can find me at innerpeacecounselingcenter.com, 704-937-2286. I don't call myself often.
Right.
On Inner Peace Counseling Center on Facebook and Instagram.
All right. And we will have his information in the episode notes. And until next time, everyone, thanks for tuning in. You can find us www.divasandducats.com. You can email us if you have any questions you would like to possibly have read on an episode, divaadvice@gmail.com. We are also on Instagram and Facebook, Divas and Ducats. And you see we're on YouTube because you're watching us, so go on and subscribe.
Subscribe.
Same name. All right. In the meantime, in between time,
have a great attitude.
Bye.